Okay, so in this video, we are gonna go over parallel lines, transversals, and their relationships. So let's start with parallel lines. So this definition is also in your virtual classroom, and it says parallel lines, lines that never meet and they're always the same distance apart. So we have an example here, and it gives you the symbol. The symbol for parallel lines is these two little lines, and we're going to see how that applies. So we have these two lines, and if the problem says, so specifically says, line AB is parallel, so we can say line AB is parallel to line ED. You can say it that way, so you can specifically say a sentence. Another way that the problem can let you know that the two lines are parallel is by using this symbol here, saying AB is parallel to ED. So that's using this symbol, and I'm going to highlight it. So this symbol, that's how you use it. Now, a final way in which a problem can tell you that two lines are parallel is by marking up the actual lines using that symbol right on the line. If these two symbols have the same number of like little tick marks, that means they're parallel. So let's say that this one has 2 and this one also has 2. That means that they're parallel. But if this one has just 1 and then this one has 2, that means that they're not parallel. But let's keep it as these being parallel, so they each have 1. So those are the 3 ways in which a problem can tell you that two lines are parallel. Keep in mind, parallel lines, they never meet. So these can go on forever and ever and ever and ever if they didn't have endpoints. And so can this one, and they'll never meet. Something else that's important is that they're the same distance apart. So if like AC are 10 feet apart, all throughout is 10 feet apart. They never get closer to each other or further away. They're always the same distance apart. Okay, so that's parallel lines. Sorry. You can pause the video and take some notes down. And now I'm going to move on to transversals. So a transversal is pretty much a line that passes through 2 or more, usually parallel lines. So for example here, we have these two lines, A, B, and C, D. And then this blue line, EF, is passing right through them. That blue line is called a transversal. All right? So at this point, you can also pause the video now, take some notes down. That is all that we need to know about transversals. Now let's get into some examples. So let's say we have this here. And we have these two lines. What we know is that we have two lines. There's two straight lines. And we have this transversal. And they told us that this angle right here, angle FGB measures 30. They also told us that this angle here, we can call it angle GHD, also measures 30. And now we want to know what other angles can you find. So let's start with this top one over here. This corner or this angle measures 30, right? But what if I try to fit this corner as well? Those two together like a puzzle. They come together and they make a straight line down here. Do they not? Like this corner right here and this corner right here. They come together and fit to make a straight line right at the bottom. And we know that straight lines always measure 180. We learned that from when we had our lesson in supplementary angles. So if this angle measures 30, all we got to do is say 180 minus 30 is gonna give me, oh, this color, how much this angle here measures, and that's 150. Okay. Now, let's think about, now let's kind of like flip this a little bit. By using the same idea, we had this angle right here, right? But what if now I wanted to come together with this angle here, this little corner? So don't these two, this pink angle and this orange one that I already know is 150, when they come together like a puzzle, don't they make a straight line right here? Right? You can also picture it as like they make half a circle, right? So that means that these are also supplementary. So what we can say is, we can say 180 minus 150, and that's gonna give me 30. So now that this angle right here is 30. Well, that's funny. This angle and this angle both measure 30. But what's the relationship between these two angles, this pink one and this green one? These are vertical angles. So it makes sense that these two are going to be congruent, because we know that vertical angles are congruent. We can use that very, very same thinking for these two. So we can say like that orange one, and what color have I not used? Let's use this nice blue. All right. And this one, those are also vertical angles. So I can say that this is 150 as well. And we can double confirm that, because this 30 degrees right here and this 150, they fit together like a puzzle to make a straight line over here, and that will be 180, right? So 150 plus 30 is 180. So there we have, we found all of these angles just using this one angle, and using the fact that we have supplementary angles, we have supplementary angles, we have vertical angles, we have vertical angles. So there's different ways to double check your work. But now we have all of these. The very same thing can happen down here, right? If this is 30, that means that this is going to be 150, because 150 plus 30 is 180, and they make half a circle. They make a straight line at the bottom. And then we can use the fact that we have vertical angles. This would be 30, and we have vertical angles again. This would be 150, and we have all of it filled up. So notice how just with one angle, we were able to figure out all of these using ideas such as supplementary angles, using vertical angles. So we used all of that to figure those out. All right, take a moment to pause this, rewind if you need to, and take some notes down. All right, so let's jump into example 1. Now I want you guys to pay close attention to these, because these look very, very similar to your assignment for today. All right, so here we're asked to find this red angle, this X. And we're given all these different angles, informations, right? Now the one closest to it is this one right here, this 122. And what do we notice about this 122 and this X that we're looking for? They fit together like a puzzle to make a straight line in the bottom, right? To make, or also another way that you can see it is to make half a circle. That means that these are supplementary. So to find X, all you gotta do is 180 minus 122. And that's gonna give you what the value for X is, because these are gonna be supplementary angles. And we get that that equals 58. So now we know that x is equal to 58. Okay. All right, so down here, again, we're given this measurement of 122. Now, these two, what is the relationship between these two? These are going to be, they're across from each other, right? It's two lines, so let me highlight the two lines that are being used. We're using this line. Are we using this line? And now these are across from each other. That means that they're going to be vertical angles. And we know, so these are vertical angles. And we know that vertical angles are always congruent. That means that if this green angle is 122, this blue one, or my y, has to also be 122. That was easy. All right, so this top one, we used supplementary angles. Down here, we used vertical angles. Oops, sorry. Vertical angles. Now let's look at the next example. You can pause the video now to take some notes. Let's look at the next example. All right, here, pretty straightforward, right? We're looking for x. And now notice how we have two lines. Oops, sorry. We have two lines. We're using this line and this line. And this 80 degrees up here is right across from my x using those two lines. That means that these are also vertical angles. And since vertical angles are always congruent, that means x also equals 80, right? Okay, now here's where it gets interesting, because down here, we're gonna need to use what we found in the top part. We found that this angle down here was equal to 80, right? Okay. Now, we are asked to find this y, this blue one. Now, we are gonna have to use this 30 over here. Why? Let's say we put all these three angles together. These three angles fit together like a puzzle to make half a circle, or to make a straight line down here, right? That means that these three are gonna add up to 180. Three of them are supplementary. So we can say 30 plus 80 plus y equals 180. We never said it could just have to be two. We can have three supplementary angles. So we can add these, right? And we get 110 plus y equals 180. And if we were to subtract 110 on both sides, we get that y is equal to, so I'm going to put it up here. Y is equal to 70. So we had to use this top one to solve the one down here, because now it's three of them that add up to 180. All right, so at this time, you can pause the video and take some notes down. Again, here we used supplementary angles. So you can pause the video, take some notes down, and then you can head over to Google Class